So good morning, everybody. This is Jennifer, and I am super, super excited to have Gia here with me today. I am terrified to say her name the whole way because I'm afraid I will totally ruin it. So we're just going to go with that. I met her through another group actually on Facebook, and I'm super excited because she's going to be talking to us today about how to step out of our comfort zone and learn to travel around the world while we're working. So a lot of us are entrepreneurs. I know I'm really excited about this myself because my husband and I have actually taken some steps to be able to be mobile as soon as my daughter is out of high school. And we were talking the other day, and I have all of her formal information and all of her formal bios and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to tell you that I was totally in love with her energy. I'm in love with her personality. I'm super excited about what she has to teach us. And I think everybody can learn from anybody, and it doesn't matter what degrees or certifications they have. That being said, she's an amazing, successful entrepreneur. I think we're all going to learn from her, and it's going to be fantastic. And I personally can't wait to hear what she has to say. So with that, I'll turn it over to you and let you have at it.
Hi, Jennifer. Hi, everyone else. It's great to be here. So we met a few months ago in a group, and once I saw Jennifer's website, I was like, oh, I need to get this done. I don't know how she has that energy on her website, but I want this, like I need this. So then we started talking, and that's how we came up with the idea with this webinar, and I love talking about traveling and my business. So of course I said yes. So today I'm firstly going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how I travel and how I run my business while traveling. So my full name is Gintaute. It's a very long name. I'm from Lithuania originally, but I haven't lived there for 10 years. So firstly, I moved to England to study, then to the States to study as well, which was very challenging. So whoever is from the States, honestly, guys, you work way harder than a lot of us, at least at university. And then I moved to China to teach English because I was working in a corporate job before. I had a 9 to 5. I did some work for really big companies like Johnson & Johnson, and it was great. Like, I loved working, I loved learning, but I always wanted to travel. You know, I had the money, but I didn't have the chance to leave besides Fridays and then fly back on Monday, which in Europe is not so difficult to do. Like, there are a lot of countries around, so it's very easy to just buy a flight ticket for the weekend. But in the States, and when I was outside of the States in China, it was just really hard to schedule the traveling around the work. And that's how I started my own business. So I'm a mindset coach, and I'm also a business strategist. I mostly help entrepreneurs who want to do what I do. So they want to run online business, have more freedom to spend the time with family, and to spend the time traveling. So a little bit about me. As I said, I'm from Lithuania, but I speak 5 languages. Right now, I'm in Caribbean because I wanted to practice my Spanish, which is probably actually not a great place to start because their Spanish is not very typical Spanish. So I probably would have had an easier time somewhere in South America. But it's definitely great because, you know, I get the beach and everything what I wanted while running the business. So first of all, what is your comfort zone, right? So we all need to figure out what are the things that we can deal with and what are the things that we can't deal with. So it's kind of similar to talking about your life purpose. A lot of people always ask, well, what do you do well? What do you love doing? And sometimes it's really hard to say, that's what I love. That's what I want to do. So I always start with the negative. What don't you like doing? Once you get the negatives out, it becomes a lot more easy to figure out what do you love doing. So similar with the comfort zone. What is it that you can't deal with? Let's say for me, when I travel somewhere, if I read a review on a hostel or in a hotel, and I see that their hot shower does not work, that's it. I can't stay there. Like, for me, it's the basic of the basics. I don't really care about the bed. I don't care about where it is, how far do I have to travel. If there's no hot shower, I'm dying. Like, here, some places don't even have hot shower at all. Like, they don't have hot water in their houses. So for me, it's such a hard thing to understand. And that's kind of a limit to my comfort zone, which later on, when you have more experience, you can kind of move past. And important to know what are the little things that are going to really, really annoy you and kind of ruin the trip. A few days ago, I actually saw a story of a lady that was traveling for 2.5 months in Thailand and Southeast Asia. And only when she moved there with all the plans sorted, she realized she hates hot weather and sweating. So that kind of right away put, I don't know, a very negative perspective on the rest of the trip, because, she's going to have to deal with it, whatever else she's going to see, however exciting the adventures she's going to have. She's going to have to deal with the heat first. And she was actually thinking about going back home. And that's like a huge example. Of course, a lot of us probably know a little bit more before we go traveling. But I would say before you go anywhere or before you start any sort of new adventure, figure out what is it that you can't deal with. Equally so, like right now, I live in a hostel, so I volunteer here while running my business. In that sense, I get to stay for free. I get to meet a lot of new travelers, and I meet all sorts of people. And some people are super excited to be around other people and stay in a room with 6 beds. It's kind of like sorority house or a dorm where you share everything. But other people really can't deal with that. They need a hotel or a room for themselves. And that's something, yes, you can learn while you're traveling, but you probably should think about before and start small. So that's one of the points. I would say always start small. If you grew up in a countryside and you suddenly want to move to New York, maybe you should try like smaller towns first, see if you can handle X amount of people, then move to a bigger town, see if you can handle more people, because that really might affect how you feel in whatever you do, especially when you run your own business. There is going to be so many challenges, especially in the first year, first 2. So if you're out of your comfort zone and running your own business, that's like double exposure to everything. And it's just really, really mentally hard. And you definitely don't want it. You want to be focused on what you're doing, what you love to do, and not, I don't know, how many people you share the room with or how much money you're going to spend on something. So I would say always start small. If you want to start traveling and all the time you had a 9 to 5 job, you always went for a 2-week holiday in hotels. If you want to start traveling on your own, start, with a weekend away where you don't know what the country is, what the environment is. See if you can research. Of course, research is the key to everything, because, it's the same as our business. We don't start our business without, okay, are people going to buy what we want to sell? Are people interested in what we're doing? So same with traveling, I wanted to go to Asia for all my life, but I was really afraid because everyone kept saying, you're a very picky eater. You're going to go to China and you're going to die because all you can eat is insects and like, I don't know, other weird stuff. So when I landed, I was so scared. I mean, and it has been good 8 years before I moved to China. And it got me so scared of like not having stuff to eat. And the second day I was like, it's the world of, 21st century. It's very easy to find whatever feels like home, but you need to be ready to look for it. So, when I moved to China, the first 2-3 weeks, I was trying to find American food or Lithuanian food or English food. Well, Lithuanian food is probably impossible to find, but American food, Italian food, anything that's very similar to what I'm used to. So I wouldn't put all the stress on being in a new place, having a new job, having a new environment, not understanding a word they say. After 2 years, I still don't understand a lot, but I did get a bit better. So that's where I would start. Find what grounds you. Every time I move, I find dancing. So besides running my business and besides traveling, I'm a huge dancing fan. Like, it's my passion. I usually do salsa, bachata, kizomba. If you know a little bit about Latin dances, you've probably heard of these. So wherever I move, one of the first top 5 things I'm gonna do is either Google or Facebook, or I don't know, go through the bars and see if they have any dancing. Because when I go dancing, it doesn't matter what country I'm in. I know the kind of people that are gonna come. I know the kind of music it's gonna play. I know everything about the environment, even though the people are totally different. So that grounds me. That makes me feel like I'm home. And that makes me feel very relaxed. All I'm worried about, it kind of all goes away. So whatever it is that you're passionate about, whatever it is that you feel kind of associated with home, it could be anything simple like a smell. Like some people travel with their bath salts or like little these room smelling things. I'm not sure what's the
Like
English
the
word for it.
diffuser, probably like yeah, oil diffuser or something.
Anything like that, because it reminds them of home. So it makes them feel a lot more comfortable when they are in a hostel with a lot of people, overwhelmed and kind of lonely, because you're constantly surrounded by people while you're traveling, but those people aren't your family and they aren't your friends, at least to start with. So it's okay to feel lonely, but if you are preparing for kind of the worst situation, then it becomes very easy to overcome it and move on to your next challenge or to your next destination.
So it's
So
interesting to me what you're talking about right now, just because it's the same thing that I do, because I do a lot of mindset work too. I do the spiritual stuff as well, but it's interesting because in the book that I have, I talk about that. What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? What emotions are you going to have? Who's going to be there? I feel like when you can bring all that in and kind of get that idea of it, it does take a little bit of the fear away. And it also sets you up. It's interesting too. I knew we connected on so many things because we didn't talk about this the other day, but when you're talking about what don't you want, that's a lot of times where I have to start with people because they're like, well, I don't really know what I want. Okay, well, the best way to find out what you want is start with what you don't want. So I love all of the tips that you're giving us because it's so similar, and I'm like seeing how you can really relate that to anything. So whether it's travel or business or just your daily life and things you want to change in your life, you can really put all these principles to the same thing.
yeah, for sure. I mean, traveling that's just something that we're talking about today, but most of these things apply to anything, to your running your own business. I mean, I think most of the things that I've done before starting my business really helped me while I started my business, because I jumped on kind of all the way in. It wasn't like 9 to 5. I literally came back from China. I wanted to start something new. I was looking at very, very different options, anything from affiliate marketing, e-commerce to coaching. And I actually didn't even know that online coaching exists at that time. I always thought about big speakers, big book authors, and I never really felt like I could do it because I'm always traveling. So when I did start it, most of the tips that I've learned while traveling really helps me running my business too. All the comforts, all the kind of research that I used to do before, now I just kind of redefine what I'm researching on and doing that for my business. And it's the same.
That's awesome. I
Um,
love it.
yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention something and I totally forgot what it was. um, okay, right. Yeah, I was talking in one of my groups recently as well about confidence and how, when you start small, you grow your confidence. So recently I read a good article where they said, well, you're not going to be confident in something unless you do it enough times to be confident, and sometimes we forget that we need to praise each other and ourselves while doing that. And they gave this amazing example of how when you're a baby or when you're a little kid, everyone praises you while you're doing one step at a time. Like, you imagine how your parents were so happy while you're doing that, but when we run our business and when we are stepping out of the comfort zone, nobody says that to us. Like, everyone's usually, oh no, but it's not gonna work. Oh, like, nobody needs this, or you're not gonna do this well. Well, screw that, it's not true. Like, you can do whatever it is that you're, like, every day we're defying the law of physics and all of that just by walking as humans. So why wouldn't we do what we really love to do, especially in today's world? There are people in China that sell air from other countries. So it happens. Just you need to find the right market for it. So when you start small, you gain the experiences, and then you get more and more comfortable with kind of just the actual stepping out of your comfort zone. It's not necessarily stepping out of your comfort zone and traveling. It's like you acknowledge that feeling where you're kind of excited and you're afraid, and it's all together. It's kind of, it's hard to tell which one it is, whether you're excited or afraid. And then once you kind of learn to accept that feeling, it becomes like, oh, okay, this is just normal for me. Like, it's a positive way to just experience something new. So once you kind of accept that feeling as positive and you tell your mind, oh, I've done it before, it's okay to feel that way, because after that, it's going to be something great is coming. So once you know that, whatever it is that you're uncomfortable with and you're doing it, it just feels the same. I think one of the big speakers, I don't know if you've ever heard of her, Mel Robbins, she has her like 5 seconds rule. And she always says that excitement and fear is the same emotion, the same, like butterflies in her stomach and everything. You just reverse what your mind is saying about it, whether it's negative or positive. Have you read any of her books?
I've heard of her. I follow her on Facebook, but I haven't actually read her book yet.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm writing another one, so I'm trying to be really careful what I read from other people, because I want it to be, congruent to my own stuff and not from somebody else. So yeah, but I love the stuff that she has, and I love the way that she switches it. I know Cindy's saying that it's a really good book and she loves it. So is it pretty similar, Cindy, to what we're talking about today? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how you do that. I feel like I wouldn't be able to write my own book because I wouldn't know what's from me and what's from all the other.
It's exactly what you're talking about right now, right? Like, it's a fear thing. Like, the first time when my guide said I was going to write a book, I'm like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, there's no way. But my guides were like, yeah, you're going to write this book. And it's the same thing. You just take the first step, which is put the pencil to the paper and see what happens, right? So it's exactly what you're talking about today, which is awesome, because now I'm going to challenge you to write a book.
Oh, it's been in my mind for a long time, but I feel like, it's definitely in the one day of my
it's going to come. We'll I'm going to put it out there right now, because this is going to go public. So I'm challenging you to write
I'll
a
have
book.
to do it.
So that's the great thing. And this goes back to the community, which is why I love these webinars, because I love getting all of us on here together and being able to talk about these things and say, you're right. And that's a great idea for you to write a book. And I do encourage you to do that. So it's the same thing that you're giving us about getting over the fear of traveling. It's all life, and we're all in it together. So I love that.
That's very cool. So I kind of thought that's pretty much all in terms of what I wanted to talk about, but I want to share some websites that I use in terms of like tips and tricks of how I book my trips. I actually rhymed it without trying it. Let me see if I can figure out how to share the screen. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. So this is kind of one of my favorite websites that I started using when I was 16, so a very, very long time ago, more than 10 years now. It's called couchsurfing.com. I'm actually on my profile, but basically what happens is you create your profile, you create very, very similar to Facebook, where you kind of tell people, where have you been, what are you trying to do, where are you traveling. It's all about traveling. And then you can connect with people in any location, either in events or by staying with people. So that kind of helped me when I started traveling, because I was still very young and I wasn't quite willing to stay in hostels. I'm not even sure if the hostels existed at that time yet. But I was staying more with people. So like if I put, I don't know, Lisbon.
I have a friend that's getting ready to transfer there. She's going to move there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Lisbon. It's one of my favorite cities in the world for sure. Yeah, so this is kind of telling you, how many local hosts. So these are the people that can host you, and then you write them kind of emails about yourself. You read their profile. What are they looking for? It's all for free, so you don't pay them. Usually it's a lot more about gratitude. So you kind of cook them a meal, or you take them out for a meal, or bring something from, I think I got a really cute kangaroo from Australia when somebody came to visit me. So it's just kind of really basic, and people do that because they love meeting other travelers. And it's also pretty safe, because if you see these green ticks, people actually have to confirm their address. They're like, not sure if they require the bank account now, but they pay quite a bit as well to get confirmed. So it's very similar to Airbnb, but Airbnb is like you're being alone, whereas here you actually get the host. So most of the time the host is going to show you around the city, tell you where to go. You can also host in your home too, so it works both ways. And then I think the new thing that they introduced is the events. I think it's been a few years now, where in the location you can see what's happening and people who want to hang out. So you can just go to a coffee shop. I'm sure you can find it in your cities. So it's a pretty good way to kind of get out of your comfort zone, meet a lot of travelers who might not even speak English. You know, there's a lot of language exchange happening a lot of times. And I've definitely had really, really good experiences with that. Another one would be, well, this one is probably a bit more known. I use booking.com a lot because the more you book on this, the more discount, well, not discount, the more kind of perks you get. So right now I'm on a Genius status, which means usually I get like early check-ins, late checkouts, a drink on arrival. It really depends on the place. Sometimes you get discounts for booking itself. So it's pretty useful if you're looking for hotels. And they're usually quite competitive in terms of pricing. They vet the people who sign up for them as well quite well. So I've not had a lot of bad experiences in terms of booking on them. And then you can refer other people, earn more money, of course, when you do that. It goes more and more. But basically, if I would start for looking for hotels or hostels, I would probably start with this website or the Hostel World. So booking.com is mostly focused on hotels, I guess, and resorts, whereas Hostel World is mostly for hostels. So if anyone doesn't know what a hostel is, it's literally with a lot of like bunk beds. I should have probably explained it earlier, but it kind of, sometimes I forget that some words are not like universally accepted yet. And then it becomes a lot more difficult to introduce the new topic. Yeah, so here basically you do the same, you know, you put your location, the time, the guest that you have, and then you see what you can book. So if I put Cuba, this should give you like a lot of hotels. Well, now it's going to be all in Dominican pesos because I'm not in my currency anymore. But basically it's pretty good because, you know, it's very cheap. So if you're starting to travel and you want to save money, you can always start with hostels because they're usually a lot more price friendly than hotels are. And the final one, so this is one of my favorite tricks actually, which I shared with quite a few of my clients and they actually loved it. So hopefully you can use that too. So it's called Skyscanner and you might have seen it before. I mean, it's very similar to Priceline in the States, kind of Google Flights as well, but I use one trick. So if I'm going somewhere, let's say I want to go to Colombia. So instead of putting, let's say Dominican Republic, which I'm going to do now, to let's see, Colombia. Okay, so let's say I'll go, you can pick that by month or by specific date or the cheapest month. I will do the cheapest month because it doesn't really matter to me when I'm going to travel. If you look at it normal way from Dominican Republic to Colombia, it gives you like the cities that you can fly to and whether they're direct flights or not, and kind of give you indicated prices, which are very good. And then if you click on it, you can see a lot more choices where you can go and from where you can go. However, sometimes when you get more comfortable with traveling, you don't really know where you want to travel, or like you know the country, but you don't know when is the best time to travel, how to find the best flights. So what I do is I reverse it. So instead of doing the Dominican Republic to Colombia, I'll do Colombia to Dominican Republic. To find Colombia. All right. Okay, here. I'll do Colombia to everywhere. So when I'm looking at Colombia to everywhere, that gives me kind of indication of which countries have the cheapest flights somewhere. So let's say if I was going from Dominican Republic, of course, I don't have a choice. But let's say if I'm still planning to do other trips before the Colombia, so let's say I want to go to the States first and only then to Colombia, or I want to go to other Central American countries before Colombia, then looking at it this way, I can see which destinations tend to be cheapest ones to fly from Colombia to somewhere. So usually it's the same from somewhere to Colombia. So let's say from Colombia to Colombia and from Colombia, it seems that Panama is a good place to fly to, which means that most likely then you reverse it afterwards. So right now I look Colombia to Panama, right? Doesn't help me because I'm not in Colombia. But then if I know that Panama is quite cheap, then I will do Panama to Colombia. And then I can see like that the flights are actually not that expensive. So it kind of helps you plan your destinations in the cheapest way possible. I don't know, is it pretty clear? Or
Yeah, it's making sense to me because it's like thinking outside the box, right? So instead of being so dead set on what you're doing, be like, well, I could go here, here, and here. Let's look at it all and see what makes the most sense to put it together. It's getting you out of your comfort zone, right? Because you're like, I might have to go here first.
yeah, definitely. Because, you know, most of the times when we book our flights, we pay a lot just because we don't pick where we are flying from. And these days, sometimes it's so much easier to fly somewhere else first and then fly to the actual destination that you want. Let's say this summer, last summer, I was supposed to fly from Philippines to Lithuania, and the flight with one company was like $400 or $500. And I was like, oh, I'm not quite willing to pay that. So what I did, using that method, I was doing Philippines to Dubai, Dubai to Poland, and Poland to Lithuania, which did take me a lot more time, but I had a lot more adventures. And in total, it was like $150.
Oh, wow.
So it saved me $300. Of course, it's not okay if you don't have enough time. If you only have like a holiday, it doesn't work. But if you're planning for a longer holiday, which you're probably going to be doing soon enough, so it's really good to actually see which destinations are cheapest ones to go to first, and then see if you can find like a layover through a different city there. I mean, I love Dubai. That was the best decision I could have made.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to go there someday.
Well, I really loved it, but I unfortunately went there apparently on the highest season.
Oh.
It was like 45 degrees every day, or like 50. They are prepared for it, and it's actually not as scary as I felt it would be. But the first night when it was 10 p.m. and it was still so hot. I don't know how to say it in Fahrenheit, but it was crazy, crazy hot in Celsius. So
yeah,
it was quite an experience.
All right. Are you kind of at the end of your presentation, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say
Okay.
most of it.
So does anybody have any questions? So we'll go ahead and open it up, and you can either type your questions in the chat box, or you can ask them. If you want to unmute yourself, you can unmute yourself and ask the questions. Does anybody have anything they want to ask right now?
I would love to ask a question if I could.
Hi, yeah, sure.
Hi. So I'm actually going on a trip that's going to be sort of like what you were talking about, going from one place to another place to another place, and I don't know the best way to go because I have a lot of flexibility. So it's basically going first to Costa Rica, where I'm going to be at a retreat, and then I wanted to go to a couple other places, but I don't know which order to go in because they're very far away from each other. So it's like I want to go to Bali as well, and what was the other place? It would help if I could remember. There was one other, like in maybe Thailand or something, but it seems like the flight would be going all the way from Costa Rica back to LA to, over to Bali, and it seems like just such a long way around. And I think the last thing you said about the sky scanner is going to help me a lot, but I don't know if you have any tips on like what order to go in based on the flights if it's really far away.
Yeah, so I mean, it would definitely help if you know all the locations, because if you are planning to go to Asia, unfortunately, the easiest way to get to Asia is probably from Europe, because they just have a lot more better flights than from the States. and it depends where you're going after Costa Rica, because like I'm here in Dominican Republic and I thought, oh, I'm going to go to Cuba. It's like 500 kilometers away. And honestly, for me, it's easier to go from here to Florida and Florida to Cuba than from here to Cuba. And that's why I use Skyscanner. So if you kind of go backwards, I'd say, so you mentioned Thailand and Bali, right? I think England is a good place to fly from. So that might be worth checking whether Costa Rica has some flights with like London or other English destinations. They usually have quite good flights, and Brussels too. Brussels usually have really good flights. Like I flew here from Brussels to Dominican Republic, direct flight, and it was $150. So that saves a lot of money compared to like Lisbon to here, which is like 400.
Okay.
So I would say, go for it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I would say go backwards. So let's say check on Skyscanner, put Thailand first, see which destinations come up. You can pick cheapest month. It doesn't really matter. Like for you, the month, I guess it's easier to start with all the month rather than one specific one, because then you're kind of basing it on price. But then if you find the easier destinations and you can compare it with what Bali has, maybe there's some overlay. Because even some Asian countries, they're not too far, but they don't fly directly from one to another. It's just easier if you visit like Malaysia in the way, like on the way.
Okay.
So I would say go backwards from your final destination and see if some of them are matching. But you can always send me a message if you know all your destinations, and I can kind of tell you maybe which one is the easier way to go, like easier route to go.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
So Tony has a question. She said, I'm really interested in how you manage travel, your business, and other stuff like fitness and finances. It seems like a lot of balls to juggle.
It is. Yeah. Okay. So there is that new thing called digital nomading, which is, a lot of people where they travel, work online, and they never stop. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of both. So I personally don't think I could successfully run coaching business and travel every week, because I need the time zones, I need the good internet. So that's kind of very challenging. So what I try to do is try to stick to 2 months at least, or 1 month minimum in one location, because then you find a good internet. You find maybe the working spaces if you need it. Sometimes, you might not have good internet in the houses. You can only find them in the workspaces. So that's kind of the first thing I'm always researching. Is there a good internet connection in that country? Like some of the countries I just have to avoid, like China is blocking Facebook. You can use it through other, like there are ways to use it, but it's usually very slow. So for me, all my business is on Facebook. I can't do that. So I have to kind of avoid China for now, unless I'm taking an actual holiday. So it does really depend how good of an internet connection you have to have. And then besides that, I kind of research most of the stuff beforehand. So let's say right now I'm going to the gym and I found a cheap gym, but that's because I talk to locals. So when I move to a new place, I always talk to the locals. Whether you speak their language or not, it doesn't really matter. You can always use translator. But you kind of have to firstly have the list of what you're going to do. So let's say when I move, I need a gym, I need good internet, I need a workspace. So these 3 things I kind of try to research before I move somewhere. And if I can't find something like that, then the first week I'm kind of stepping away from my clients, or a few first days at least. I'm kind of acknowledging to them, I'm traveling right now, I'm moving to a new location, and this is what I have to do, just to make sure that my work doesn't suffer while I'm doing it.
And it's doable, because even for me, I just changed everything in this last year, and the Wi-Fi has been the biggest issue, but you find creative ways to get around it. So the next question is, do you think co-working spaces is worth it if you're just starting out financially? She said they can't turn on the video because it's 7 a.m. here and the housemates are still asleep. I would not be happy with somebody. I am so not a morning person because I'm the same way. I don't do mornings. I don't have anything that I do work-wise before 9 a.m. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not a morning person. Although here, when it's so hot in the morning, that's the only time you can go to the beach. So this kind of works for me in a good way, pushes me out of my comfort zone.
So the one thing I want to say about that is, and I hope I'm speaking to this, Tony, and I hope that's okay that I answer this a little bit, and then I'll turn it back to you. But what I want the one thing that I love that you and I both agree on is it's so much of it is mindset and what you think can happen, right? Because there's a lot of gurus out there, a lot of coaches out there that say, if you're going to be successful, you have to do this. One of the ones that I used to follow was like, you have to be up at 5 a.m. and you have to do this before 7. And I'm like, that's BS, because I don't even get up till 7. Like, I'm barely getting my first cup of coffee at 7. And then you've got to define too, what is success for you? Like, what financially, what exactly do you need? How much do you need to be able to do the things that you want to do? Success for one person may be $800 a month. Success for somebody else might be $8,000 a month. So you've really got to look at what that means to you and what that's going to look like for you and what you really need to be able to do the things you want to do. Then you can decide what your business needs to be. And don't let anybody tell you that it has to be at a certain time, because most people tell me, oh, if you want to do coaching clients, you have to do it in the evenings when people are available. I don't. My coaching calls are at like 10 and 11 a.m. depending. And that's my time in Colorado, right? So and I have a gal from Sweden, right? So don't let anybody tell you what your business has to be. When you decide what you want and when you can align with that, then the universe opens up and brings you the people that want to work with you.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. Definitely, there is no reason to start your own business if you're going to do it because of your clients. I mean, like, the reason we're all quitting 9 to 5 is because we don't want to depend on someone to tell us when to do what. So if you have your own business, you can always find a different client, but there's only one you that needs specific things to run your business. So, like, if you don't want to be up at 7 a.m. in the morning, then you're probably not going to be working with people who, for me, are in Australia, because they are so in such a different time zone for me right now, that right now most likely we're not going to connect easily. But then again, sometimes you meet someone and you're like, I love to help you. Like, I will wake up at 5 a.m. if I have to. It does change depending on the situation. But of course, first of all, make sure that you're working for yourself. Like, that's the reason you're creating the business. And if you're kind of trying to follow someone else's needs, then it defies the whole purpose. At least I would say that.
So Tony, does that answer or give you clarity? Do you have any other questions? Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up.
Just the one thing about the finances. So let's say, financially, you need to know which country you're going to. So I think, let me just go, Eleanor as well, we talked about where you're going to be going. So, you need to make sure that you check out what are the financial requirements for that country. Because, here you can probably easily survive for $800 quite well. Like, you can get apartment for $500. You can probably spend enough of like everything for $300 extra. But then if you go to South Korea, that's very expensive. Even though the food there is not expensive, the living style is expensive, the traveling is expensive. So like, it's important to research what are the basic costs. And there's so much research online. There's, you can just Google that. And there are really good websites where they say how digital nomads travel and kind of how much money they spend. So it's a good indication on how financially secure you will have to be in a country. And regarding the co-working spaces, so I don't think it really matters if you're just starting out or you already started. It matters a lot more of what you need. So let's say for me, when I'm in a hostel, I need to make sure that I can talk to my clients without people around. So sometimes I have to go to either my boyfriend's place or my friend's place where I can have my own space, or a coffee shop or something, because co-working spaces here don't really exist. But then in a lot of other countries where they're more digital nomad friendly, they do have the co-working spaces, and then you can rent your own kind of office for an hour for the day. So yes, if you're working with one-on-one clients or with a group of clients and you need your own space, then co-working spaces are great, even if you have to pay for them. Because if you spend $50 or I don't know, whatever else you would spend depending on the country, you will get that back from your clients. So it makes a lot more sense than trying to juggle that in your hotel where it might be noisy, the internet might not be good. Because the co-working spaces, they have most of the things that you need: internet, headphones, projectors, anything that you might think of, especially with jobs like ours, consulting, coaching. You definitely need some of them.
Any other questions? I'm not seeing, okay, I don't see any chat questions. Do you have anything you want to leave us with specifically?
I don't know. I would say that, you have to follow your dreams for sure. I mean, I call myself mindset coach, but I'm actually kind of like a dream life coach because when I started everything, even 9 to 5 jobs, I never really realized what my dream life looks like. I kind of just had a vague idea. And I feel like now when I'm actually living one, I can't stop thinking, why haven't I started this earlier? And why haven't I thought that it's possible? Because, we are so usually limited by what other people say, especially if you're from a culture where having your own business is not kind of very common thing to do. And it's kind of like, well, are you going to be financially stable? Are you going to be doing this well or not? So whatever limiting beliefs that you have, work on them in the beginning, because the sooner you get rid of the limiting beliefs of something you can't do, the sooner you can start living the life that you are actually meant to be living. Once you start doing it, there's no better feeling than helping your clients, whatever it is that you will choose to do. And that's where you actually start thinking, that's why I was born. It's not necessarily about what I've done before, what I have. It's not about the money. It's not about where you're living or what's around you. It's a lot about the inner feeling that, okay, yeah, this is it. This is what I want to do. And if somebody tells you you can't do it, you can. Like, if you can't find the people around you that says that, go online, go on Facebook in a group where people say, yes, you can. Like, we do it every day.
Okay, so speaking of that, I want to invite you guys all, if you're not already a part of our groups, I'm going to invite you guys to do that. I'll make sure that you have the link to both, because we both have that. And we both have the same heart thing, which is why we connected. And I just feel like we totally just blended really fast whenever I first met you. So I'm so excited that you came on today. I'm super excited to talk about the limiting beliefs and the why aren't you doing what you want to live or want to do in your life, and creating the life you love, and all of those things. And I love that we have the similar ideas, but we present it differently and bring different terminology to it. And it's so important to be around people that are going to share that with you and encourage you to do that, and call you out a little bit. Like, if they see you making excuses instead of, a lot of times excuses are just limiting beliefs in disguise, right? And so it's like, well, why do you think that? And you have to really get into it and find out why you're not living the life that you really want to live. So, and it does get by with like our barriers of what we grew up with and what we think is acceptable and what we think we've been trained, right? What we've been told or taught or whatever. So I'll make sure that everybody here has links to get into our Facebook groups, find that community. If it's something that you want to change, I know in mine, and I think in yours as well, you can ask any questions that you want in the throat. Like, I don't even monitor mine. Like, you answer, if you ask them, and if you want me to answer specifically, tag me in it. I'll be happy to answer. And I feel like you're the same. Is that the same feel in your Facebook group?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm always willing to help. I go live a lot. I kind of feel like there is no scarcity mindset anywhere. Like, if somebody wants to work with me, they will work with me. And the fact that I'm helping someone for free, whether in discovery call or in my group, that just makes them feel better about it. Like, there is no, if you're afraid to share one thing with someone, then you clearly only have that one thing to share. So yeah, definitely everything is freely shared everywhere.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much. If any last questions, and if not, we're going to go ahead and cut it off. I'll make sure that everybody that registered, everybody that registered will have all the information to all of us, and you'll also get a copy of a private link for the replay. And then she has one last question. In the process of trying to cut out a toxic friend, any tips to make it less painful? That's always a hard one, because it's going to depend on how long the friendship's been around, what that looks like. Is it family? Is it, there's so many variables. And we don't have a whole lot of time left on the webinar, because I usually plan these 45 minutes to an hour, but definitely connect with both of us, or whichever one of us that you want to ask that to specifically, or ask it in both groups and see what kind of feedback you get from both places. And I love that question. So I would love to actually talk about that. We talk about that a lot of times in my Embodied Grace group, just because there's so many things, and people that don't understand you or don't see eye to eye tend to react with their own fears and their own whatever. And it's really hard. Sometimes it's more about self-care and self-protection and keeping yourself in that vibration. So if you're trying to go and create a new life, and if you do want to go travel, you don't need somebody that's telling you you can't do this. So sometimes it's just seasons, right? Sometimes we have friends for a season. So do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say that one thing that I've heard a long time ago and really helped me was that if somebody comes to your life to give you something, if you've learned everything that you kind of needed to take from them, they will disappear from your life. And sometimes you just don't notice that. And once you start focusing on it, it becomes so true. So maybe you can definitely do that directly, you know, when you don't want to talk to that person or not spend too much time with that. But also when you start focusing on the things, sorry about the noise here, and there's always construction. Yeah, if you just want to focus on doing your own thing and kind of paying less attention to that friend is probably going to disappear from your life because you're going to have another 50 to talk to about the things you're doing right now.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for coming. Like I said, if you registered and I have your email, you'll get a copy of the replay. If you don't have it, let me know and I'll be happy to send it to you. And then we'll talk to you guys all soon. Have a great day. Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it so much that you were here.
It was my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.